it is understood that he has already achieved the 5 kinds of liberation. When a devotee is promoted to the spiritual world, Vaikuntha, he receives 4 kinds of facilities. One of this is Salokya, living on the same planet as the Supreme Personality, the Supreme Person in his different plenary expansions, lives on innumerable Vaikuntha planets, and the chief planet is Krishna Loka. Just as within the material universe, the chief planet is the sun. In the spiritual world, the chief planet is Krishna Loka. From Krishna Loka, the bodily effulgence of Lord Krishna is distributed not only to the spiritual world but to the material world as well. It is covered by matter, however, in the material world. In the spiritual world, there are innumerable Vaikuntha planets, and on each one of the Lord is the predominant deity. A devotee can be promoted to one such Vaikuntha planet to live with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Shastra liberation, the opulence of the devotee is equal to the opulence of the Supreme Lord. Samipya means to be personal associate of the Supreme Lord. In Sarupya liberation, the bodily features of the devotee are exactly like those of the Supreme Person, but for 2 or 3 symptoms found exclusively on the transcendental body of the Lord. Srivatsa, for example, the hair on the chest of the Lord particularly distinguishes him from his devotees. A pure devotee does not accept these 5 kinds of spiritual existence even if they are offered, and he certainly does not hanker after material benefits, which are all insignificant in comparison with spiritual benefits. When Prahlad Maharaj was offered some material benefits, he stated, "My Lord, I have seen that my father achieved all kinds of material benefits, and even the demigods were afraid of his opulence. But still in a second you have finished his life and all his material prosperity." For a devotee, there is no question of desiring any material or spiritual prosperity. He simply aspires to serve the Lord. That is the highest happiness. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Gnananjanashalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this chapter is called Explanations of Devotional Service. So we saw Lord Kapila describing the different types of devotional service. Devotional service is actually one, spontaneous, pure devotional service. But depending upon the devotee who is placed differently in the material world, according to the modes of material nature, one may perform different kinds of devotional service. So Lord Kapila had explained about devotional service being rendered in the mode of ignorance. Shri Krishna Balaram ki jai, God Nithai ki jai. And he had described devotional service being rendered in mode of passion and in the mode of goodness. In the last shloka, Lord Kapila started explaining about pure devotional service. which is higher than even the mode of goodness. And he described the symptoms, lakshanam. How does one understand that actually one is performing pure devotional service? So, manifestation of unadulterated devotional service is exhibited when one's mind is at once attracted to hearing the transcendental name and qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is residing in everyone's heart. So now, at the present moment, even though the Supreme Lord is residing in everyone's heart, we are not attracted to Him. He is so near to us. He is the best well-wisher. But still, we are attracted to Maya and not to the Supreme Lord. Even though the Supreme Lord is the best well-wisher and Maya, Prabhupada used to say, Maya is kicking master, Krishna is loving master. But unfortunately, we are attached to this Maya, and we are being kicked left and right by this Maya. So, we find this, that sometimes if there are some topics, political topics, or such kind of topics, immediately our attention goes there, our mind goes there. We want to hear what is happening. So, from this we can understand where is our consciousness situated. And when our consciousness will be spontaneously attracted to hearing the holy name, hearing the pastimes of the Lord, then one can understand that yes, he is executing pure devotional service. The example was given very nicely. When one's mind is at once attracted to hearing the transcendental name and qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is residing in everyone's heart, just as the water of the Ganges flows naturally down towards the ocean. So it is natural for river Ganges to flow towards the ocean. It comes from great heights of Himalayas, and then naturally it flows down and down to the ocean. Such devotional ecstasy, uninterrupted by any material condition, flows towards the Supreme Lord. So just like we find there may be so many obstacles, but somehow or other river Ganges is able to find a way and flow towards the ocean. So similarly, that is one of the very important symptoms of pure devotional service. So I was reading one very interesting pastime of Maitreya Rishi explaining story of Dhruva Maharaj to Vidura. So Maitreya Rishi, after very elaborately explaining the activities, the fame, qualities and character of Dhruva Maharaj, winds off the story of Dhruva Maharaj, which he related and narrated to him very elaborately. So after Maitri Rishi finishes explaining about Dhruva Maharaj, Vidura, he takes advantage of what Maitri Rishi had mentioned while winding off the pastimes of Maharaj. Maitri Rishi had said that when Narad Muni saw that his disciple has gone back to Godhead, he was very pleased. And Narad Muni, who is always glorifying the Supreme Lord, Narada Muni, Bajai Veena, Radhika, Ramana Name, always singing the glories of the Supreme Lord, Radharaman. He goes to the assembly of Prachetas. They are also his disciples. There, he had asked the Prachetas to perform a sacrifice for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. There he goes and he sings 3 verses glorifying Maharaj Dhruva. So Prabhupada explains there is no difference between glorifying the Supreme Lord and glorifying the pure devotees who are connected to the Supreme Lord. Bhagavata pertains to glorifying the Supreme Lord and his devotees. And sometimes the Lord is more pleased when his devotees are glorified than the Supreme Lord himself. Vidura, he becomes very inquisitive and he places some very important inquiries so that Maitri Rishi can continue narrating. You see, this is very, very important lakshana, symptoms of a pure devotee. He is spontaneously attracted to the topics about the Supreme Lord. So he places further inquiries. He says, you have very elaborately described about the story of Dhruva Maharaj. Can you kindly narrate? What did Narada Muni do apart from glorifying Dhruva Maharaj in that assembly? There must have been some very important discussion which Narad Muni would have had with the Prachetas. Please elaborate on that. So, Prabhupada in that purport explains, this is spiritual subject matter. When purely spiritual subject matter is recited or heard, neither the reciter nor the hearer, they become tired. It is just like Amrita. Prabhupada says that. Spiritual subject matter are called Amrita. They're filled with life. Material subject matters are mrita, they are dead. There is no actually life in those subject matter. That is why it is described punaha punaha charvita charvana. Same old subject matter, rotten subject matter, just presented newly and trying to chew the same old subject matter. So, and then further, Maitre Rishi was asked by Vidura to explain about the descendants of Dhruva Maharaj. So this subject matter is like this. This is one of the symptoms of a pure devotee. Just like materialistic person is immediately attracted to any material topic, a spiritually elevated person is spontaneously attracted to name, fame, qualities, pastime of the Supreme Lord. Otherwise we wonder. Prabhupada says there are only 3 words, Hare Ram Krishna. Only 3 words devotee keeps on repeating. 24 hours he can repeat. See? Devotee does not become fatigued even for 24 hours if he has to repeat only these 3 names. This is the quality of spiritual subject matter. How it happens is at present, even though the Supreme Lord is present in our heart, Maya is covering our heart with ignorance. Our original attraction for the Supreme Lord is covered by Maya. And that same love, that same attraction is now distributed in this material world on different material objects. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has advised that if we chant the holy name of the Lord, then what will happen? Cheto darpanam arjanam. First thing, our heart will become purified. It is just like the glass covered with dust. So, the mirror covered with dust, if the dust is removed, then we will be able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then our loving attraction to the Supreme Lord is immediately, it is once again established. So, in simple term, we can all check. Am I inclined to hear more and more about Krishna? Am I inclined to read more and more about Krishna? Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, so many literatures are there. Am I inclined? Or is it that once I have read and I say that yes, I have finished, everything is over? Maitre Rishi is saying, when he is talking about Dhruva Maharaj's story, he is saying, anyone who hears it again and again will without fail develop love of Godhead. Subject matter is so. So, this is the meaning. Here in this verse, Lord Kapila is saying the second symptom. So the first symptom is spontaneous attraction to the name, fame, qualities and the Leela of the Supreme Lord, to hear about them. Second is, even if the Supreme Lord offers some kind of material or spiritual benefit, devotee is not inclined to accept. Accept the pure devotional service of the Lord. So Prabhupada says, there is a similarity between what Lord Chaitanya says and what Bhagavatam is saying. Because one may think, after all, these are all spiritual benefit. Salokya, to live in the same planet as the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord has many, many Vaikuntha planets. The Lord has expanded himself in varieties of forms of Lord Vishnu. And one can go to any one of these planets. He can reside in the same planet as the Supreme Lord. So does a devotee not want to go to any of these planets and serve the Supreme Lord there? Salokya. Shrashti, having the same opulence as the Supreme Lord. Sarupya, except for some very prominent, something very special features which only the Supreme Lord has, like the Srivatsa hairs on his chest. The devotee can also acquire the same form as the Supreme Lord. So he can get same opulence, he can become a close associate of the Supreme Lord. Samipya. But Lord Kapila is saying, even though they are offered by me, the devotee does not accept them. That is a symptom of pure devotional service. Salokya Shrashti Samipya Sarupya Ekatvam Apyuta Diyamanam na Grananti. Diyamana means even though I offer it to them, na grananti, they do not accept it. Vinamat sevanam janaha. They simply want to serve me. They only want my devotional service. So Prabhupada says there is a similarity. Lord Chaitanya also teaches the same thing. Na dhanam na janam. I do not want material opulence. I do not want many followers. Kavitam va jagadisha kamaye. I do not want a beautiful wife which people may desire. So, mama janmani bhavatad bhaktir ahetuki tvai. What I desire is even life after life, even I have to come to this material world, means I don't even desire mukti. Okay, people may desire dharma, artha, kama, but finally they may desire moksha. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, I do not even desire mukti. Same thing Lord Kapila is saying in Bhagavatam. That even though I personally give them, they do not desire. They do not accept. And Prabhupada says sometimes, even though the devotee does not desire, the devotee may accept 4 of these muktis. And not the 5th one, Ekatva, or which is also called Kevalya. Prabodhananda Saraswati, he says, Kevalyam narakayate. This happiness which is sought after by yogis or jnanis, by merging in the Supreme Lord, that mukti of ekatva, merging in the Supreme Lord, which is also called kevalya, it is narkayate, it is hellish. So devotee will never accept that. So sometime he may accept any of the other four to serve the Supreme Lord, even though actually pure devotee does not desire and does not even accept. He just wants to serve the Supreme Lord. That is the characteristic of pure devotional service. There is one very nice pastime where Srila Prabhupada explains very nicely that even though sometime devotee may desire some material benefit, but the Supreme Lord is very merciful. He reciprocates differently with devotees than with the non-devotees. With the non-devotees, he reciprocates ye yatha mam prapadyante tamstate bhajamya. Somebody wants something, and if he deserves that, Supreme Lord arranges, he gives him. But Prabhupada says, for a devotee, this is not the principle which the Lord follows. Rather, dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. Devotee may desire something else, but the Lord will arrange in such a way, He will arrange the circumstances in such a way that ultimately the devotee will come back to Him. He will take shelter of the Supreme Lord. So this Prabhupada explains in the context of Maharaj Anga, father of King Vena. So Maharaj Anga, he was performing a great sacrifice, and there were learned priests and brahmanas, and they were chanting mantras according to the proper meters. But they saw, all these brahmanas saw, that when they invited the devatas to participate in this yajna, they did not come. Neither they accepted their portions of that yajna. So they were very surprised. So they were talking to Maharaj Anga and said that you have collected all the ingredients very purely from your side. We don't find there is any kind of inability or mistake being done in getting the different kinds of ingredients. And we are also chanting. We are considered to be very expert in chanting the mantras. And one of the effect of chanting the mantras perfectly is that when these devatas are invited, they come. But we don't find. Neither they are coming and neither they are accepting. So Maharaj Anga was also very bewildered. He was surprised. What is happening? So he said to these brahmanas, have I committed some aparadh? Have I committed some offense? Please let me know. So the head priest, he said, Maharaj Anga, in this lifetime, we don't find. Even in your mind, you have not committed offense. See, earlier times, even if in mind somebody thinks offensively, it is considered to be an offense done. Kali Yuga, the Lord is very, very kind. Unless physically we perform offenses, the Lord excuses us. So they said, even in your mind you have not committed. But then they said, but we see that in your previous life you have committed some sins. And because of which you do not have a child, you do not have a son specifically. So our suggestion is, the same yagna which we have arranged, the Ashwamedha yagna, you pray to the Supreme Lord, Vishnu. And once he is satisfied, you can get a son. And in that sacrifice, when you are performing for the Supreme Lord, even though for getting a son, all these devatas will come and they will accept their portions also. So Maharaj Anga, as was advised, he followed and he conducted that yagna for that aspiration of getting a son. So very soon, from the fire, the Yagna Purusha appeared wearing a golden garland and holding a pot, golden pot, which had sweet rice in it. So with the permission of the priest, Maharaj Anga accepted that pot, and it is said he was very liberal in his heart. He very well knew that one of his wife, Sunita, she was daughter of death personified. She was daughter of death personified. And she did not deserve this offering, this prasada. But being very liberal, he gave a portion to her, desiring a son from her. And very soon, son was born. She became pregnant and she gave birth to the son. So there, Bhagavatam explains that actually these two things were arranged by the Supreme Lord. Even though Maharaj Anga desired something, the Supreme Lord arranged differently. He satisfied his desire to have a son, everything. But the plan of the Supreme Lord was different. So Prabhupada explains this very nicely in his purport. That actually, daughter, she carries the qualities of father. So, Sunita, the daughter of death personified, was also carrying those qualities with her. And when she gave birth to the child, the son carries the qualities of the mother. Daughter carries the qualities of the father, and son carries the qualities of the mother. So that is why Prabhupada explains matching horoscope, matching the qualities. It was quite essential in the Vedic times, so that when the qualities are matching, the household life can be peaceful. Otherwise, there can be havoc in the married life. So, because she was daughter of death personified and she was carrying those kinds of qualities with her, the child also carried the same quality. So Prabhupada explains, the Lord arranged for Maharaj Anga that even though he desired a son, the Lord arranged differently in a way that ultimately Maharaj Anga does not become entangled in family household life. and being disgusted with his family, that the wife is also carrying those kinds of dushta qualities, and the son is also carrying those kind of qualities, we can imagine what will be the condition of Maharaj Anga. And exactly the same thing happened. When Maharaj Anga saw his son was so cruel, he would go to the forest and kill animals without restriction, inflicting them so much pain. While playing with children, he would cut off somebody's head, just like this. So even from his childhood, such qualities were visible in him. So Maharaj Anga started thinking, what is the use of having this kind of family life? Better to give it up. And then finally he gave up his whole kingdom and went and surrendered completely to the Supreme Lord, took his shelter. So we can find, Prabhupada explains, the Lord is very kind. That sometime the devotee may aspire, may ask for something which may not be actually spiritually beneficial for the devotee. But the Lord is very kind. He may still fulfill his desire, but ultimately he will arrange in such a way the devotee will somehow or other take shelter, forced to take shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord. Isn't it? So this is what we can see, that actually pure devotee does not accept any of these things, whether material benedictions or even spiritual benedictions. Prabhupada explains very beautifully from the life of Prahlad Maharaj, when the Lord directly asked him, please tell me, what benediction can I give you? The Lord was very pleased with Prahlad. He said, my dear Lord, why are you alluring me with material benedictions? I have seen my own father. He had everything. He had everything. But you finished off in just one moment. Everything was finished. So what is the use of that benediction? But if you want to give me benediction, give benediction that not even a tinge of material desire remain in my heart. Give me that benediction. Because material world is so that automatically we are so much allured, so much attracted towards materialistic way of life. So this is another very important feature of pure devotional service. I'll just read that last sentence which Prabhupada explains. For a devotee, there is no question of desiring any material or spiritual prosperity. He simply aspires to serve the Lord. That is the highest happiness. So we'll stop with this. Granth-raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.